to Line for Line podcast, presenting you Barely Watch Podcast. I'm your host with the most, Devon Booker, and we have Mr. Lester Wiltbong Jr. in the building. Lester, how you feeling on this beautiful Saturday?
I'm doing good, man. How about you? It's really chilly, right? I mean, we
I,
were talking earlier on the pre-show. Like, don't go outside today if you live in the Midwest, man. It's
yes,
not
do
worth it.
not go outside. It's
Yeah,
cold. It's brick cold out there, young man. Which obviously we know our Bears will be playing in the cold tomorrow in that frozen tundra that they call
yeah,
Soldier Field. But before we get into that, Lester, we got to talk about this Packer game, young man. Like before we get ready to start, I just want to say I'm not upset with that loss. Lost by a touchdown. They came from behind. They hung in there. I'm comfortable with that loss.
yeah. On my show this week, I kind of same feeling, right? We always wait a day after to kind of give our recap, and in the moment, I was pissed, right? Man, the
Hmm.
Bears had it. They should have, probably could have had a chance to win that game. Ben
Hmm.
Johnson said afterwards he would have went for two, right? If they would have scored a touchdown, he was going for the win. The hell with
Hmm.
this. Let's get in there, get the dub, and get out. And yeah, so in the moment, I was pissed. But the further I got away from the game, like, look, they went to Lambeau. They played the Packers as tough as you could play. They
Hmm.
put up more points and more yards on them than anyone else has in Lambeau this year. Again, the same old Bears, right? I mean, they've had adversity and they've overcome it this year. They've had issues in games and they've overcome it this year. They're winning, these comebacks. So they had one that fell short. Okay, that's
Hmm.
fine. Move ahead and get that win against Cleveland. And then next week, same thing. You're playing for first place again. So take care of your business and then you'll be fine.
Yes, sir. If you had to say, Lester, what would you say went wrong? Obviously, we know Caleb Williams threw an interception, but what went wrong outside of that interception where the Bears were not able to emerge with the W?
Yeah, I mean that's the key there. I mean, he kind of just it's funny because everyone looked at the all 22 and they're like, oh, he should have threw to DJ Moore.
Hmm.
You're watching the film, but like he already had his hand was already cocked. He already had ball in the air by the time Moore came loose, and then even Ben Johnson's like, look, he wasn't even open. No, that was he came open late. By that time, the
Hmm.
ball was gone. So it's just a bad play. I mean, look, the Packers have a good team. They have a really good defense, and at the end of the day, they made more plays than the Bears. But man, that second half, the Packers are reeling. The
Yeah.
Packers knew they were in a fight in that game, and
Hmm.
even some of the Packers players, after the game, were talking like that. That yeah, this is a little different. There's a belief. Even the Packers fans saw the belief the Bears have in the regime and in Ben
Hmm.
Johnson and in Caleb, what's going on. So like I said, I have a lot of hope for the future with this franchise. I'm pretty excited still.
Yeah, listen, they had that Packers defense on their heels the
Yeah,
entire second half. Micah Parsons, I'm not saying he just didn't do anything, but he didn't get home for the sack. You see he didn't really have any tackles, so it's like they had them gassed. You see several plays where Micah Parsons had to go on the sideline
yeah,
because he was winded trying to catch his breath as well. I just kind of feel like they should have not abandoned the run as much, and like some of the plays that they threw made no sense. Like everyone knows when a wide receiver screen is coming. I'm sitting on a couch. I'm saying, "Oh, here comes a screen. Here comes a screen." And what do you see? A screen. So it's like if I'm at home, never been in an NFL or even that caliber, calling it out, I'm pretty sure that the defense is calling it out as well too.
yeah. I think the first half, Ben Johnson he even talked about it could be a little better there.
Hmm.
The game, the run game kind of got away from a little bit in that first half, and the second half they kind of went back to it. And like you said, man, the Packers were gassed. I mean that's what the Bears can do to you. I mean they have a physical team. They want to run the ball. That's kind of what we're going to see. I think on Sunday against the Browns is they're going to try and really be physical. They're going to try and dictate the tempo as far as what they want to do on offense. And if all things go as it should, the Bears should come out of there with a win.
Yes, sir. Now, I want to talk about Caleb's completion percentage. Let's sure. What is it? 58.7, 57.8. One of the two. How is it that we clean that up, Lester? Me personally, before I let you answer, I just see that as something that they'll work on and talk about in the offseason as opposed to this year.
Yeah, that's an off-season thing. Some of it's tied to his footwork. I saw a couple people smarter than me online talking about how a lot of his misses are when he's looking things off and coming back quickly. So
Hmm.
that tells you that he's trying to rush it a little too fast. So I think that that's something they'll clean up in the offseason. Plus, also this year, I think he leads the league in throwaways to avoid
Hmm.
sacks. Like if the play's not there, Last year he would always try and keep it alive and always try and make a play, and then that's kind of led to some of those sacks. He avoided a ton of sacks,
Mhm,
but he took some sacks he probably shouldn't have. This year, if it's not there, he's being smart. He's throwing it in the dirt. He's throwing it
mhm,
away when he has to. He's had some passes batted down this year too. I think more than last year. So then of course there's the drops, and even Ben Johnson talked about a couple weeks ago when he talked about the completion percentage that it's not just a Caleb thing; it's the offense thing. Sometimes the guys are in
mhm,
the right spot. Sometimes the spacing is off on the receivers. So they'll clean it up. Again, year one of the offense. There is not a doubt in my mind that Ben Johnson is the right guy for this gig, and he will get things figured out. And like you can't fix everything in one off season.
mhm,
We've seen huge strides from Caleb this year. His deep ball is better than it was as a rookie. The sacks are way down from where it was as a rookie. He's working the middle of the field way more than he did last year. The explosives are huge. I mean, they're way up
mhm,
this year. Okay, the percentage is a little lower than you like it. He's not going to get close to that 70% they talked about. He's probably not going
mhm,
to get 60%, but they're winning games. He's being smart with the football. He's not throwing interceptions. Of course, he had the one pick against the Packers, but late game,
mhm,
sometimes you got to try and make a play. Yeah,
mhm.
it's. I have no concerns about with the percentage. It'll go up as his career goes on.
Of course. Now we know that, like you said, we're talking about his accuracy issues. Now we know that sometimes he overthrows the receiver. So let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the drops,
Yeah.
the the batted balls, and like the ones that he throw in the dirt. Let's say we take those three away, Lester. Where do you think he would be if he's not at 57.8 or 58.7, one of the two?
One of those sites tracks that. I forget. I think it's Pro Football Focus. There may be another one out there, but they kind of track that. It's the adjusted completion percentage, and look, he's still towards the league, towards the bottom of the league in that. But you factor in the drops, you factor in the throwaways, you factor that kind of stuff in, and it's obviously much better. So, like I said, I'm not even concerned about it. I mean, it's going to get cleaned up. Rome Odunze, his top guy, has been banged up now. I think like I said, we said last time. I think his injury first happened. That's after Ravens game. So
Mhm.
he's been playing less than 100% for a few weeks. He missed last week, of course. So again, it's just one of those things where it'll take a little time. And look, as Bears fans, we've never seen a good quarterback, and like m- many Bears fans right now have literally never seen good quarterback play. I mean, the
Right.
Bears. I'm old enough to remember Eric Kramer's good year, and I'm old enough to remember Jim McMahon. He was pretty good. Pro Bowl quarterback back in the day, but it just hasn't happened. So as a Bears fan base, we just gonna be like, look, let it happen. It'll happen organically because that's just who Caleb is, and that's who Ben Johnson is.
Yes, sir. Now, as we don't want to stress on last week because we're focused on the Browns now, but I will say, Lester, that offense, second half, they played lights out,
Yeah.
especially Luther Burden. What, three of his passes were for first downs, and he had to step up in place of Romo Dunze. Cal Monungai, he's just like lightning in a bottle. Like I said, this team is in good hands, and I can't be mad at that loss. That they looked really good coming out the second half. They looked really prepared. They looked like they knew what they had to clean up and fix from the first half leading into the second half, which, like I said, that we were one play away from either scoring the game and tying the game or one play away from losing the game like we did.
Yeah, exactly. I think he had to do it again. Maybe he'd run and get that first down if he thought it was there, but he saw Cole. He figured he'd take a shot and just didn't put enough on that pass. It
Yes, sir.
happens.
Now, how different do you think the outcome would have been if Odunze would have played and we would have had Tariq Stevenson and Kyler Gordon?
Yeah, I mean injuries happen. The Packers had some injuries too, so I mean we could play that game on both sides. They're missing their probably their best defensive tackle.
Hmm.
They had a couple other injuries. They did get some guys back in receiver core, which really helped them. Watson had a big game for them. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about it. I think again we'll see what happens here next week when they play in Soldier Field, and I think it'll be a different outcome.
Yes, sir. Now, heading into the Browns game, Lester, like I tell everyone that asks me, there's no easy wins in the NFL. People
Nah.
count the Browns out like the Packers did. They counted the Browns out, and what happened? They lost. Miles Garrett, he's chasing that all-time sack record as well too. So I'm pretty sure he will be relentless as well too. How is it that we go in and win this game and bounce back from the Packers loss, Lester?
They got to run the ball. I think that's going to be a big key. You mentioned Kyle Monunga earlier. This dude. I love the way he runs. I mean,
Hmm.
it's funny. I was going back and I was prepping an article the other day, and I used a Monungai picture. So when I searched for the Monungai pictures, there are so many picks that pop up that has that C popping off his helmet, right?
Oh,
There's been
yeah.
like three games this year. He's hit somebody so hard he knocked the decal off. So
Mhm,
he's a physical runner. He runs hard, and this time of year, right when it's the playoff push, you need those guys, and especially look. I'm not a huge bear weather guy. I'd rather see them in a dome with perfect conditions for my football, but
mhm.
there's going to be cold. So run the ball, physical running attack. Calvin guy I think may have a huge game this week. And, look, they're not going to abandon Swift. They're going to try some outside zone stuff too. So I think it's going to be a big running game this week. I would not be surprised to see another 200 yards on the ground.
Oh, wow, wow. So who do you see winning this game, Lester? Obviously, we know the Browns have a really good defense.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's. I mean, look, the Bears. This is the playoff right for them. They
Mhm,
fell to the seventh seed. They fell to second place in the North. Of all the playoff teams now, they have the least chance to make the playoffs. So they got to keep winning. I mean, for them, this is playoffs. And look, coming off a loss, if they would have beat the Packers last week, then maybe then maybe you could say, man, this could be a trap game, right?
mhm,
But coming off a loss, there's no way Ben Johnson won't have this team ready. You know, Ben, he's a psycho, right? He's pissed. He was pissed all week. The
mhm,
coaching staff was pissed off. Dennis Allen, he talked about how he didn't call a very good game. He's probably pissed off. So yeah, they're not going to take this team lightly. They're going to
mhm,
go out there, be physical, and they're going to attack, and they're going to make sure Sanders, try and be a quarterback and beat him, and they're going to go after him because he's pretty bad against the blitz this year,
mhm,
as most rookies are. That's not surprising, but frigid temps, run the rock, pressure the quarterback because the Browns are missing four of their starting offensive linemen. So
Oh,
get
no.
get after it, get after the Browns, go attack that guy, and then make them beat you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, Lester, now, obviously, we know that Jordan Love is an okay quarterback. I'm not saying he's great, not saying he's not great. There were a couple plays where he threw the ball and it seemed like the ball was in the air for like 20 seconds. Like,
Yeah,
where did the defensive breakdown come from? Because if you ask me, I would say Jalen Johnson, he just looked like a jag out there, which I'm taking that from Steve Smith. Jag is just
just
a
another
guy.
guy. Yeah, yeah.
Help us understand, Lester, what happened out there?
He's rusty, right? Jalen Johnson looks rusty. But you said earlier they got Tyree Stevenson back this week, right? So I think that helps them. Now you have another decent guy you can rotate in there. So you'll see Nashawn Wright, you'll see Tyree Stevenson, you'll see Jalen Johnson, all rotating at the outside corner. So we
Mhm.
shouldn't see any Nick McLeod this week unless they really have to. And
What?
look, McLeod is who he is, right? He should probably be on a practice squad at this point, but
Uh,
he's out there busting his ass doing what he has to do. So kudos to McLeod for competing, but honestly, you'd rather have some more talented guys out there.
mhm,
It hurts having Kyler Gordon out, but you're pretty comfortable with with CJ Johnson Gardner there. And yeah, they're going to try and mix some guys in there. But yeah, having Tyree Stevenson back helps because Jalen Johnson's rusty. I don't know if he's just maybe he's not all the way back. I mean, he's healthy, but
mhm,
look, you're off for that long with a core injury. There's just certain things you can't work out. So I think he's just getting winded in there. So
mhm.
keep him rotated, keep him fresh. You know, if keep him fresh for the playoffs. Playoffs,
Yes, sir. If we make it, we have to make it
right?
first. What do you have for us on Tremaine Edmonds? Do you think maybe he'll sneak back and be back ready for next Saturday?
They haven't said much. I mean, they've been kind of keeping it quiet, but he is eligible, I think, to come off IR after this game. So,
Mhm,
I mean, if he's close, if he's anywhere close, I think they may activate it since there's only going to be 3 games left after this anyway. And you got that 21-day practice window you need to kind of work into. So, I think you may see him activated if they think he's close. He
mhm.
may not be back for Packers game, but I think he'll play again this year.
No. So we going in to Soldier Field. You think we'll beat the Browns this weekend, right?
Yeah.
What does that do for us going forward? Because now we will have to prepare for the Packers in a couple of tough games. We pretty much have to win out if we want to make the playoffs, barring other teams help us out losing and the Packers lose too, so we still see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough schedule. The Browns, they're the only AFC team remaining. So obviously, this game's not quite as important as the others, but with the NFC so jumbled up, you can't afford a loss. That's why I said it's like a playoff game for them.
Mhm,
If they win, then next week, no matter what happens in Green Bay with the Packers and the Broncos, The Bears win, then next week's game is for first place again.
First
So
place. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
that's what you got to do that. And like I said, the Packers are in Denver. That's a tough game. So the Packers, they may come out with the L there. The Rams are playing the Lions. So,
Mhm.
if the Rams win, they clinch a playoff spot. So there's a lot of the line from the Rams, knocking the Lions. One more game behind the Bears would be a good for Chicago.
Mhm.
And then, of course, they have the Niners in a couple weeks. So it's a tough, man. The NFC is hard this year. No one expected the NFC to be this deep, but
Mhm.
it's tough. That's why the Bears can't afford to lose.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lester, we really appreciate you coming through to us today. One last question before we get ready to close out this last episode. If Odunze does not play, are you confident in Luther Burden's skill set and where he is right now as a rookie receiver to step up and fill that void if we miss him a little bit more time?
Yeah, I think Burden's. They've been smart with Burden. They kind of brought him along slowly. They kind of eased him into the lineup. They're not putting too much on his plate in his first year. We saw Olamide play some bit last week. He had the nice touchdown catch. Obviously, you saw some Colston Loveland. So I have heard that Rome is probably going to be close to going. He may be game time his decision. But look, if it was me, I'd sit him, man. I mean, if he's not all the way back, it's a stress fracture. It doesn't like heal overnight. You
Hmm.
know, if it's to the point where they know you can't get it worse, then yeah, maybe play him. But I don't know. I just can't help but think. But one more week of rest might be best to get him ready for the Packers.
Yes, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you've heard it here first, Lester saying that we're going into Soldier Field and emerging victorious. Lester has never been wrong in his tenure as being a Bear reporter. Is that right,
Never,
Lester? Or
never. All
Lester, we greatly appreciate you having some time per usual, sir.
right, man. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.